Hey guys, and welcome to our first episode of Real Talk Russ. I'm your host, Russ Martini, and I'm joined by my best friend and co-host, Mr. Tyler. So we're excited. It's our very first episode. We're, proud to kick this off. It's been a long time in the making now.
Long time, yeah.
It's fun, man. So here we go. It's our first episode. So today you guys are probably wondering, what is Real Talk Russ, right? It's a place to go where talk gets real. We've had plenty of these conversations with so many people, man. I think you and I can even count how many times we've had these conversations with people. And it's going to be a podcast, a video for you guys to pretty much tune in, be able to listen to the conversations that Tyler and I have. And there's going to be all kinds of topics, right? We'll have guests on and stuff, but pretty much we're going to cover things from the Hollywood industry, the adult entertainment industry, interesting jobs and professions. So a lot of people, whether they're local or they're just somewhere out there that you've never heard of, or just something you don't have a lot of information on or we're kind of curious about, we're going to talk about that. Movies, shows, music, because we all have that. Everyone's always, into the culture of music, movies, and media. Gaming, social media, we're both into gaming really heavily on that. And then real life struggles, right? Everyone goes through some pretty hard times. We all go through real life events, things that kind of shape us and who we are. And that's really where we're going to that's going to be our bread and butter, right? We're going to focus on that a lot. And then the stuff that really kind of hits our heart and our interest, aside from gaming, would be like comics, anime, manga, where obviously we love that. He's getting me bigger into anime and manga as we kind of progress and our friendship grows. So yeah, we're going to talk about that pretty heavily as well. And then just kind of other stuff too, supernatural topics, ghosts, UFOs, all that kind of crazy stuff, just different perspectives, right? Conspiracies, things
anything
like that. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of everything and it's going to be fun, man. We're looking forward to it. We're excited for you guys to be on this adventure with us. We're excited to grow, have guests come on, and really just have you guys see our perspective into some of the crazy, funny, sad, and interesting topics we're going to cover. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah.
So to kind of start off, who is Russ? Who am I, right? I'm just your basic average guy who likes, enjoys long walks on the beach and hanging out. No, I'm totally bullshitting. Although all that sounds great, that's not, obviously there's more to us. No, but really I've been in management for a long time, right? I was in the Marine Corps for some time, so, that kind of shaped a lot of my personality. And really, Tyler and I have worked together for quite some time now. We've been, really good friends for pretty much right after as soon as we hit the bat, working together, we kicked it off, had a really good relationship, and that's grown. We continue to work together. We have mutual friends, and it's just like a real big, tight-knit, close family at this point. And that's really kind of what draws our personality. We have very similar personality where we kind of, I don't know, I'd say we challenge each other, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty cool. So that's kind of my personality. Like I said, in a nutshell, it's you guys are going to experience it, and you're going to get to experience Tyler's personality for sure, and kind of make your own assessment, your own judgment on that. And those of you who already know me, you're like, yeah, we know your personality. We get you. We get you. So Tyler, you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, obviously I'm Tyler. I'm experienced a lot in my life, and it's kind of shaped who I am as a person. And I've experienced a lot of things in my childhood that kind of shaped who I am, kind of like what you're talking about now. I'm a very easygoing person. I love to talk crap. I love to, have fun at the same time. And I love very hard. I love my family. I love my friends. I love everybody, that's close to me. But, everything that I've experienced in my life has kind of made me who I am at this point. And we'll dive into some deeper topics of who made us who we are. A lot of tough experiences in my life. Like I said, we'll dive into those, but, I'm just happy I'm a happy man, and I want to continue being happy with my family and friends, So.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. He said it better than me, honestly, legitimately. Yeah, that's perfect. And we're going to definitely dive into this, so we don't want to have that full conversation right now as we go. But, so really, how did we meet? How did this whole thing get started? You want to kind of take us through that?
Yeah, I'll go. So, back in 2013, so we're about 11 years in now, right? I got the itch that I've always had since I was a young child to be a police officer, and so I started going to school to be a cop, right? Obviously. And I went to school to get my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And so at that time I was working part-time jobs, going to school full-time, I was trying to find something to kind of pay the bills. And then I found a job for Sears at loss prevention, and so I kind of dived into it, and I was like, oh, I get to arrest people but not be a cop. But so it's kind of like the before being a cop, and it drew my interest. And I applied for Sears. Sears been around since before I was born. My dad always used to go to Sears. And
I used to get my shoes there as a kid.
yeah, I feel like the old man shop, but I got the interest in it and I applied for a job. Obviously, long story short, I got the job at Sears as a loss prevention agent, and you were my boss.
Yeah.
And I still remember it to this day. My very first day.
Don't say the names. Don't say the names.
My very first day, I came in and I'm sitting in the office. There's nobody there. Nobody's in the office, and it's my very first day. And I'm just sitting there. There's cameras everywhere, watching the whole store, and I feel like I was being tested, but there was no test. There was
like
just
undercover boss.
Undercover boss, right? And I'm by myself, and I sat for myself for about 2 hours in this office, and I'm just, sitting there. And then a couple hours later, Russ walks in, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you're the new guy." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the new guy." And he said, "Hey, where's so-and-so that's supposed to be training you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I've just been sitting here staring at a screen for 2 hours." And Russ comes back, he says, "You're like, hey, give me a minute. I'm going to figure out what's kind of going on." And you come back, "Well, so-and-so got fired on the spot today. And I guess I'm taking over, And so that was my introduction to meeting you.
Yeah.
And then we kind of kicked it off from there. It was a experience because me and you did not hit it off well right away. We had our struggles, and but the good thing, the topic of this whole podcast is that we had some real conversations and kind of got to know each other more, and it kind of, like you and I did not, like I said, we did not hit it off right away, but then we kind of had conversations that made us kind of understand who you and me are.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just bled into, what we're into now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like one of the keys with that is like when you have two people that they're headstrong, right? They have headstrong personalities.
Yeah.
A lot of times you don't get along immediately, right?
Yeah.
With somebody. And it takes that commonality to break the common ground down and say, oh, wait, we're actually a lot alike because we went through similar struggles. We have the same outlook on life, whatever that case is. Mm-hmm. And it really breaks down those barriers. And then you realize, oh no, like this person's fucking dope as fuck. Like this person I want to hang out with. Like, and it's funny because other people you click right away and it's all superficial. You realize like, oh, okay, they're just full of shit. They're actually fake. They're not real, like that's not someone I would really want to, grow and become friends with. They're putting up a facade. Yeah. And that's, I think at that point, like where you and I hit it off differently than most people because we were able to kind of see that and see past the bullshit once, we got to that point. It's probably why we didn't, get along right off the bat.
Well, once we got into a room and looked at each other in the eyes, and we're like, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what you're about. Then we're like, oh, okay, cool.
It's like the dog face me. We're both doing the dog face. Like, who's this guy?
I mean, you meet so many people in your life that are just, they're so outgoing, like for no reason, like they don't have any personality to them or anything like that. They just have a facade they try to say. Yeah. And then once you kind of break down the layers of who a person is, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And I think that's what really helped in our relationship is that once we got past that, because it's so rare these days, that we were able to be like, oh, okay, this is actually a real person that I'm talking to. And
even breaking that down even further, like you go back to like 2013, 2014, that time, like this is like the beginning of Instagram, right? The end of Vine, beginning of Instagram. Yeah. Like Facebook was already kind of coming to an end. Like maybe your aunt was jumping on Facebook. It's like, okay, grandma. Like, but everyone else was pretty much, they're kind of that social media starting to peak, right? Starting to gain interest and gain momentum. And I think with that being said, you kind of have a good point where, like you realize, oh, this person's real. Like this is like a legitimate person I can have a conversation with. They're not, just, it's not for the gram, right? They're not just putting on a facade and, like I said, a fake personality just to like, get in there and get some likes and just get people to befriend them. Yeah. So
superficial life.
Yeah. And I really think like that's definitely where we kind of hit it off. So since then, like, we worked together. Some time went by. We worked together like 7 years there. Like I was there for 7 years.
You were there 7. I think we worked there for about 4, and then we had some time together, and then we worked together again at our current job, and that's been going for about 7 years plus. Yeah.
So it's been a long run, man. Yeah. It's definitely been a long run. But like I said, and that's kind of, that to me always seemed like it shows the realness of the relationship that we have. Yeah. Obviously you're my brother. It's I mean, best friends for sure, but like we're related at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where you can say like you can work with somebody and still have that kind of working relationship where you're family with them. You could see somebody, man, for 52 plus hours a week, and you go home and you still want to hang out with that person. That says a lot about who that person is. Like, it really does. I mean, that says a lot. So it says, to what our relationship is. And I think that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, So kind of getting into that, let's talk. We kind of teased everyone with the background and stuff, but take the first hand. Tell us about your earlier years, growing up, how that looked for you.
So for me personally, like as a kid, I had a good home. Everything was fine. I had very well off parents. But eventually, things happened to where the parents didn't work out. And then my life took a sudden change as far as no more stability. Like I came from super stability, and then I went to no stability very quickly.
Guys, he went to Hillview. Okay, okay. He had a lurch. Master Tyler, walked around with like
It's not true.
that's not true. Voss water.
That's not true. If anyone's ever been to Hillview, it's not that serious.
It sounds nice, man.
It's a running joke that we've always had. So, like my parents were both very well off. My mom was a registered nurse. My dad, worked in stocks. I'll just keep it that way. And was very well off, and we were very stable. I have two brothers, and we had a good upbringing. And then once the parents kind of split, it turned into instability on both sides. Both parents were kind of all over the place, and it turned into a rough childhood. I know I'm not worse than anybody else, but for me, it took a huge toll on me. And I turned to alternative methods. To get my happiness. I turned to drugs at a very, very early age. I was 12, 13, using drugs, methamphetamines, heroin, all those kind of things.
So not just sneaking like a pill here or there or drinking dad's beer.
No drugs.
Drugs.
Yeah. I didn't smoke weed with my friends once.
Yeah.
And then obviously the life that you incur while doing those kind of drugs in order to keep up the livelihood, you start doing a bunch of stuff that you wish you never did,
Yeah.
And you start associating with different people that you wish maybe you never did, and I got involved in gangs and all that kind of stuff, and really changed my life for the worse, and I had a very promising hockey career at one point. I was very good in sports, very athletic, all those kind of things. And I remember I was at I used to play hockey kind of semi all the time. I used to play all the time. And then it absorbed my life. But then once drugs took over, I stopped doing all those kind of things. I stopped being good at hockey, stopped having hobbies, stopped doing all those kind of things. And I remember once drugs took hold of my life, it ruined everything. And then, I went through, going to jail, doing, on probation, all those kind of things. And it got to the point where when I was, 19 years old, I was 98 pounds. And I was almost going to die, and I was that bad off, know. And I met some people that kind of helped me get my life back in order. Yeah. And back when I was 19 and, kind of changed it, those experiences kind of molded who I am today. But
100%,
it, get lost here. Sorry.
No, it's tough, dude. It's a tough road because you're reliving every time we have to talk about that, And I want to interrupt you on the hockey part because I'm like, dude, I can't even fucking skate on ice. I can't even go on roller skates. My thighs will fall. But I was like going back to like at such an early age to be able to kind of have such an interest and you get to see what something like that does, right? Like, and it's not just like this typical, like we, going through school and stuff, everyone was like, oh, like the DARE programs or, all those programs that they have and, hey, like stay away from drugs and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you don't really get, it's like, what they really need to have is someone who really went through that, like someone who experienced it at that age.
But they never have.
They never
have and they never will.
They just have some like cop talking to you and no kid wants to hear that. Like they need like someone like you to say, hey, look, dude, this was me, Like,
it almost entices you to want to do it more. Like, hey, what are they talking about? And it kind of, it almost brings awareness to it to make you think about it more. Because when I was growing up, I didn't know what drugs were. I didn't know anything like that. Like they told me what drugs were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when those kind of programs happened in school, like I never paid it. It had almost like the adverse effect.
Yeah.
That's
what I was gonna say. Like that's the tough part because you get to literally see that kind of break down. It's almost like a movie, man. Like you talk about like things just start falling apart and stuff just goes awry, but there's a point, where you lived it, man, firsthand experience. So like, and then what happened? Like, so after like, you obviously you bounced back, right? You came back.
Still alive.
Yeah. So without, as much as details you want to get into, like how did that road look like coming back from, hitting rock bottom with all that?
So hitting rock bottom was, I felt like it happened in a bunch of different ways. You know, like obviously I was almost dead. Like I said, I was a full grown adult at 98 pounds. And like I'm 160 pounds now. Imagine me at 98. I'm already a skinny guy. Like you can tell it wasn't good, you know. It got to the point where I couldn't speak in complete sentences anymore. And I was a very intelligent kid. You know, I was in the GATE program and all those kind of like, you know, smart kid things and all that.
Yeah.
But it took me about 6 months of sobriety before I can actually talk in like one full sentence. Like it was that bad. And I had to have kind of a coach to tell me like how to actually speak normally, you know. So I had to retrain my body and my mind how to like actually hold conversations and all that, you know. And it was tough, man. It was a long road, but I noticed like more. Obviously, that time went by of, you know, absence of the drugs and absence of the alcohol, all those kind of things. Like I started gaining clarity again, and I started realizing what life was. You know, I remember a period of time in my life that I didn't even know what season it was. You know, me and my buddy James, and like, you know, James is part of the podcast too. We didn't even know what time of year it was until people were outside clinging the bells for Christmas donations. You know, like I didn't even know it was Christmas until like that was going on.
Yeah.
So it was a huge shock for me. But, you know, and then once I started getting into that, like trying to get clean, trying to get sober, I dove into family. You know, I dove into family. My family really cared for me, and it gave me something to kind of live for other than myself. You know, because if I live for only myself, I'm going to let myself down. And I did it my whole life. You know what I mean? Like I will always let myself down. But, you know, what I won't let down is my family, my friends, you know, my daughter now, which we'll get into. You know, I'll never let those people down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was... I had to find something to live for other than myself.
Yeah.
Basically. So
another reason why we hit it off, because we both have that same kind of outlook with things. Yeah. And then, damn, man. So changes happen.
Yeah.
You know, changes happen.
Yeah.
And then like, obviously you decided to go to school, right? And start pursuing then.
Yeah. So after, you know, many years of, you know, trying to get, like I said, my mental state kind of in where it needs to be, I eventually went to my kind of childhood of wanting to be like, you know, a cop, you know, and I used to always want to be
the opposite end of where you were.
Yes. Yeah. the polar opposite of what I used to be, you know. I remember growing up, I always wanted to be like a CIA agent, like Alf in like Afghanistan or wherever, just by myself, just kind of, you know, saving the world, like James Bond. Yeah, I wanted to be James Bond, you know, and obviously that wasn't going to happen. So I wanted to get back into, you know, law enforcement. You know,
Goldeneye was sick, dude. Growing up, that game was sick.
I mean,
you just said James Bond. I'm like, dude,
best game all time.
Yeah.
I mean, top 5 for sure. You know, but you know, I wanted to get back into that, and it was so much, like you said, the opposite of the life I was living. You know, and I have family in law enforcement. I have family that are, you know, nurses and all that serve people. You know, and I kind of wanted to do my part, and so I went to school to get my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I remember the whole time my professors telling me, you know, based off my past, based off my jail experiences, based off of, you know, what I've done, that I probably won't be able to become an officer, you know. And I remember being very deterred by that, but at the same time I was very hard-headed, I guess you could say, and I wanted to prove them wrong.
Hell yeah.
They were right. I could not become a cop because of, you know, the things I've done. But the experiences I've gained from, you know, that side of life, it was, you know, I don't regret it at all.
It's cliche, dude. Like, and it really is, but they always say, like, if you aim for the stars, you'll land on the moon kind of thing. You know, like you might not hit them, but at least you're going to get to a point where you're happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, you'll get to the point more than someone who's just settling, or someone who's, you know, maybe their goal is beyond realistic or is just not high, you know, high enough of a standard, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not prove someone wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I'm all about that, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I scored pretty top in my class, and I was very proud of that. And then after getting my bachelor's degree, I was rejected, you know, for becoming a cop. But I still felt a certain sort of accomplishment from it, you know, because everyone said I couldn't do it, and I did it anyway, you know. And I'm the first in my immediate family to get, you know, a bachelor's degree. So coming from where I come from, a bachelor's degree is very important to me.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even finish high school. I had to go back and get my GED. You know what I mean? So I might be the only one with a GED and a bachelor's at the same time, but you know what I mean? But to me, it was very important, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Damn. So like when we went to, obviously loss prevention, that was a different kind of, you were still pursuing that at the time.
I was still in school at the time.
Yeah.
Around that time too, obviously I had a, well, not obviously, you guys don't know, but I had a daughter, her name is Haley. She's the love of my life, man. She changed my life 100%. I had her when I was 23 years old, 2009. And at that time I was working full time, going to school full time, and I had a daughter full time. Well, daughter's always full time, but and so
not for everybody,
not for everybody, but for me, Haley really changed my life. It's my daughter. You guys will hear much more about her as we go on this podcast.
She'll be running this podcast.
She'll be running. Hopefully,
she'll probably kick me out of the seat. This Real Talk Haley.
She changed everything about my life. So all the old stuff that happened when I was a kid, all the drugs, all the bad stuff that happened, it doesn't matter anymore. I brought this new life into the world, and she changed everything I did. Every decision I ever make now goes about how it affects her, and I just enjoy being a dad so much. Like, it's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life is become a dad. You know? And she still to this day challenges me in many ways, and she's made me the man that I am today. Which we'll obviously discuss more and more as we go through this podcast. But I'm just extremely grateful, man. Like, there's nothing else I could wish for on this earth.
Hell yeah.
So
that's awesome, dude. I love it. So that's Tyler. That is Tyler.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. There's so much more. We'll dive, man. I mean, we're keeping these things about give or take 45 minutes to an hour long. So that being said, like, there is so much we could get into and so much we can't. We can't even scratch the surface, man. It took us how many years just to get here with, we're still learning new stuff about each other every single day. So just strap in and buckle up if you're just tuning in, because you got some catching up to do.
It took us about 10, 12 years to get to this point, and obviously this is a 45-minute podcast I could talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So. There's only so much we can fit in. But no, that's solid, dude. So just kind of like getting into me, I guess. So
let's know about Martini.
Yeah, growing up, dude. So I grew up in, same as you, Palmdale, AV, right? The far east end of Palmdale. It was a hood ass area where I grew up, man. I grew up, honestly, the house I grew up in is not big. I was pretty poor, I'd say, growing up. Like, my dad did what he could. He was in the Marine Corps for 33 years. He was in banking when, he I guess he was went in the reserves for some of that time, and then got into banking as his full-time job. So he was able to provide, but I was the youngest out of 5, or I am the youngest out of 5. So all that, we all grew up in a 3-bedroom house, dude. So like, he did what he could to put food on the table and stuff. My mom, she was the sweetest little Mexican lady you ever met, right? She reminds me a lot of James's mom. Honestly, every time I see James's mom, I'm like, that's my mom, 100%. Yeah. Just sweetest lady. Like, she would give you whatever she could, and there were times, man, we barely had food to eat, but she wouldn't eat. She'd make sure we had food to eat. That's how she was. She was the love of my life growing up. She really was. I idolized that woman, love her. And so that was me growing up. Like I said, it wasn't the greatest childhood, but on the same note, it wasn't bad. It wasn't terrible. It was all good. You knew. Yeah, it's all we knew. So I didn't know like we ever grew up and went without. Like growing up now, you're like, oh damn, we kind of struggled. But like, hey, just hot dogs and eggs. That was a good breakfast.
Did you guys do like 2 to a room?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. When I was a kid, I think I stayed in my parents' room for years, dude. I was like 4 years old, when I finally got out of that room, you know what I'm saying? And so it was tough. And then, but the age gap, like my oldest brother, he's 14 years older than me.
Oh.
So by the time I was like ready to go in, he was already graduating and moving out, and so then I got to go into a room and that kind of thing. So it was a little bit different, but like I said, to me, I didn't know any better, right? Like that's just how that was life for me, and like family was, that's I think once again you and I kind of connect on that, because family was everything. Like for us, just growing up, my mom instilled that, my dad instilled that, like family is what you always depend on. You always lean to family to get stuff done. But I always looked up to my dad, even though he wasn't like the richest guy or any of that kind of thing. I always looked up to him. He was in the Marine Corps, so I used to always like watch him get in his uniform, and to me, I was just like, damn, he's like my hero, right?
So, sorry to interrupt, but did that inspire you to become a Marine? Oh, I know I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, but... no, 100%. Okay. So, that's like, that was the early childhood, right? And then ended up going to Little Rock High School. And dude, I had like my dude, and that was my problem was kind of like my temper. I get that from my dad for sure. Temper, definitely get that from my dad. And it was one of those things where growing up, like I had a problem, I think, with just getting into fights a lot. Got suspended to the point where I was going to get expelled, got held back because I got in too many fights in like the the 7th grade. And it was at the point where I was getting in way too many fights, just looking for trouble, right?
Yeah.
Someone said something I didn't like. I was, fist to face kind of thing. And it was a bad childhood that I created for myself. So I don't blame anybody for that.
Yeah.
You have to, look at it and say, hey, that's something I fucked up on.
Yeah.
So I looked at myself and I had an aggression problem, really, So I had to fix that. And then like by the time I, got to high school, kind of turned that, it was like a 360, right? So still, still had my temper, don't get me wrong.
I was gonna say, where are we going with this?
Yeah, but I still had I turned the personality around to where now I was more outgoing, right?
Yeah.
Then I realized it was like sophomore year, I was getting kicked out of high school because I was still failing classes, and it was an active choice, right? Just failing classes, like doing just shitty. And I got sent to RX Paris.
Oh.
Got kicked out of RX Paris.
The RX
Yeah, the RX Paris. And anyone who knows that's a continuation school for high school.
Yeah.
Got kicked out of there, and then I was going to Desert Sands. And
Desert Sands?
Yeah, and for anyone who knows, when we grew up around this time, like that was like the last continuation school you go to before they say, hey, you don't get to go to school no more. And, next time it's like juvie or you're gone, kind of thing. And then I realized, and then I realized, like, you know what am I doing? Like, and it really what happened was, like, one of the teachers I had, I didn't know this guy. He was a substitute. Well, he wasn't a substitute. He was a teacher who for this school, and he kind of did, I said substitute, but I guess he really kind of was, because half of his job was there at Desert Sands, and then the other half he did independent study for Little Rock. So it was interesting. But I remember, I remember him telling me, like, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? And I told him, well, I'll just join the Marine Corps. And he's like, no, you won't. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I won't. Yeah, I will. And then he's like, you need a high school diploma, and where you're going, you ain't getting that. Yeah. And I was just like, oh. And then it kind of shocked me. I'm like, oh, I just figured that's what I could do, because I was like into ROTC and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't anymore because I was getting kicked out. But it kind of clicked in my head, like, oh, damn, what am I going to do then?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this guy was, I'm not saying his name, so it doesn't matter, but he, come to find out, he used to work for Blackwater, which was private contractors. I don't know how he even got into this, like, the private industry to teach kids. Like, that's insane. This guy was like a mercenary, but he was teaching kids in high school.
How do you end up at Little Rock High School?
And at first, I didn't know this. He never told us that, right? He never like, oh yeah. He just said, yeah, I used to do some contracting work. I didn't know what that meant. I thought he was like literally like a contractor with like a hammer. No. Like private contracting. I found this out when turned everything around, right? Started doing better. Ended up graduating high school with a 4.0. And when I was like talking to the Marine Corps recruiter, I was, going to go to the Marine Corps at this time.
Hold on.
And
let's backtrack. 4.0?
Yeah, when I graduated, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I had to turn it around, dude. Yeah. So like I realized, I was screwing up too much.
All the way around?
I turned it all the way around, dude. Because it was, like I said, it was a choice. It wasn't that I was dumb or anything like that. I was actively choosing to be an idiot. And I had to just say, okay, I got to stop, dude. I have to stop. Like, you're not going to go anywhere in life, And I didn't, my brothers and sisters, they were all doing their thing. I was really the last one left in the house. And I was just kind of being more of a headache for my parents, and there was no reason for that. So I was like, I got to turn shit around. And like I said, I always like looked up to my dad. So I was like, if I want to do something like that, it starts now. I got to turn it around. So got turned around, graduated, and then ended up going to the Marine Corps in 2007. And that was interesting. That was fun, man.
What time was that? What war were we in at that time?
That was
forgive my ignorance, but
no, you're good. That was Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. They were going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. So OIF and OEF were going on at that time. So it was kind of like a weird time. Like people were still kind of, it's definitely different now because people were patriotic then, dude. Yeah. Everyone was like, all support the troops. Everyone was happy. And, it was a different time. Like I think the U.S. was closer, right? Like everyone was closer. It wasn't like, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, we don't talk. Like, there was still a little bit of that, but everyone was for the most part agreed, and supported the troops and that kind of thing. So it was a different time, which was kind of cool. But my dad he did not want me to go in the Marine Corps, man. I remember like one of the conversations he had with me. He wanted me to go to school. He's like, go to college. If you ever want, when you get out, then join the Marine Corps.
So he wanted you to go to schooling first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He wanted me to go to college first.
What did he ever say why? Or
yeah, because he wanted me to just get my education. He's like, in his thought, and I agree with this too, is your education, no one can ever take that away from you.
Yeah.
Get it first. If you still realize you want to go into the military, then just do it afterward. Which would have made more sense. It would have been the smarter move too, because you can go in as an officer, right? Better opportunities.
Well, back then.
Yeah, and I didn't look at it that way, so I was like, nah, I want to do what you did. That's because he was a Vietnam veteran. Like, he is highly decorated, and he doesn't ever talk about his stuff like that. You've met him. He's not like that at all. But when you look at the list of medals and decorations he has, I mean, he's got a Distinguished Flying Cross, which is like, it's like the third or fourth highest medal you can get. Yeah. Next to like the Medal of Honor. So it's insane, dude. It's up there. But he never talked about it. He doesn't talk about that kind of stuff.
But that makes sense because, since I've known you, you don't even talk about your time in the
There's no reason to. And I get why. I get it. But so it was just one of those things. So I didn't listen to him. Me being me, hard-headed, I know.
And let me ask you, I kind of hit on it earlier, but like, is it because of what you saw as your dad and you admired him as your role model growing up that you just wanted to be him?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Like 100%.
You wanted to have the same colors, excuse me for, again, my ignorance on the military.
Yeah, same uniform, everything. Yeah, I wanted to do, I'd watch him like in the mornings, getting ready. I'd like, go to my parents in my little onesie pajamas. I'd watch him get
little
ready.
Pokemon pajamas.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and he was booting up and putting on his camis, camouflage uniform, and his boots were like glass, man. They were shinier than that coffee mug. They're just like glass, and I was just like, man. And he was always like he cared about his appearance, right? Uniform squared away, and when he retired, he was an E9 Master Gunnery Sergeant, which that's as high as it gets for enlisted. So he taught, once again, just always the top, always achieving the best he could, and so I just saw that, and that I idolized that. I was like, yeah, dude, that's something I wanted to do. So went into the military, like I said, in the Marine Corps, and it was fun, man. What I can say is it definitely showed me a lot and changed a lot of perspective, or gave me a lot of perspective and changed a lot what I thought I knew. I realized I didn't know shit about, and quickly kind of learned, dude, because it forced me to mature and grow up really fast. It was fun for what it was. Would I ever do it again? Probably not, but at the time it was cool, man. Earned the title of Marine, graduated. One of the proudest moments is seeing, like, my mom was hysterical. She was crying the whole time. My dad, same thing. First time I got to see him cry. So we have funny stories, and we'll definitely dive into that stuff in another episode. Not to get too stuck on that. Yeah, and then anyway, after I got out, 2011 is when I threw the axe on that. I realized it's not what I wanted. I wanted my freedom back. I wanted to just kind of go get the opportunity. Yeah, Dad was right. I don't want to stay in here forever because there was a lot of things that were kind of hindering, I think, my growth and where I wanted to be. I saw it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be, being in the Marine Corps, which wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't for me to maintain a career there. Yeah. Could I have? Sure, if I wanted to, but it just wasn't working out. So I was like, it's not where I want to be. So 2011, dropped the axe on it, and I got out. EAS'd is what they call. And so I did that. I was still in the reserves at the time. And then I decided to pursue my culinary career. So that's where I had gone to, culinary school while I was in the Marine Corps, which was really cool. Hey, they pay for everything. So that was great, right? Yeah. And I went to go open up the Yard House, right?
Nice.
Maybe I might have to bleep that part. I don't know if I can say them or whatever, but
trademark.
Yeah, right. I went to go open a restaurant, essentially. And that was cool. Realized really quick, that's not what I wanted to do, dude, because...
Yeah, I can't see you in a
No,
kitchen.
It wasn't fun, man. I mean, it was fun, don't get me wrong. I learned a lot, and because of my past experience, I was phenomenal there, and I didn't really want to leave. They didn't want me to leave, but I realized there wasn't much money there. Hours weren't there. Yeah. And it's not like, I was going to go work for Gordon Ramsay where I'm just making all kinds of money. And, it's like, it wasn't that kind of a thing. So I'm like, oh no, if I need to do this and sustain myself, I'm going to have to get another job. And at the time I was married. So I had married my high school sweetheart at the time. Mm-hmm. And we had gotten married when I was in the Marines. And, so I'm like, hey, I got a wife I got to take care of too. And, kind of got to figure this out. So then that's when I went to Sears and, decided, all right, I'm leaving this, going to get into that field. And I figured I'd start going to school too. Yeah. So when I got to Sears, I was like, all right, well, let's try this school thing, go to college, which I was like, oh man, that talk about being nervous. That made me nervous because I was never a school guy. I told you I wasn't. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let's see how that's going to go. Went to school, went through that. That would all worked out and it was good. And, that's, then we met at Sears and, kind of life pursued. We ended up kind of going to other career paths. Neither one of us pursued law enforcement. I don't think anybody that we worked with pursued law enforcement.
I know we tried to.
There was a lot of people.
I was told the hard no. So
yeah, there were guys that I did work with that did go and they got into the department, and they did great. Those guys did. My old boss, the one who hired me, he did too. Yeah, they actually got in the department. But I mean, like most of us that you and I worked with, I don't think anyone actually got in from that group. The ones ahead of that were there when I got there. Yeah, a lot of those guys did get in. But yeah, so I don't know. Then we just realized like life that's where life takes you, dude. Doors start opening in places you never thought, and you start going down. And it's interesting how it ends up. But so then finished that move with Sears. Stayed into retail, I think, is really what happened. Finished school, and then next thing you knew, like we are where we are now. And that was years ago, but it was interesting nonetheless, dude. I think that whole path was interesting. I think the hardest thing though was getting, when I got out of the military, was kind of finding my purpose again, dude. Like the struggles that we all kind of face in life. Really, what I struggled most with was, am I doing this right? Like, am I like this life? Am I doing everything right? Like when I was looking for a job, I remember like I had a hard time relating to anybody. Like, and that was the hardest part. Like, it was maybe just because, I was used to being in the Marine Corps and everyone like looked out for each other for the most part, right? You have your brothers next to you and they're always going to like have your best interest in mind. And that's all that matters, right? Like, why you fight, that's for the guy next to you, the Marine next to you. That's all you care about. But being out here in the real world, so to speak, it was like, that wasn't the case. I was on my own, man. Like, you got to figure this out. And I remember just really kind of stuck and just saying like, I wanted to find a job where I mattered again, where I felt important, where I actually mattered again. And I couldn't find that. And I figured law enforcement would be like the closest opportunity. And I think that really is what hit hard when we got to, the old job that you and I had, is because we were dependent on each other. The way that it was in the military. And it's like, that I think is as real as it got for you and me, because there were times, man, where people might think it's a joke, like, oh, you guys are just, arresting shoplifters. And yeah, we were, but there were times that weapons were pulled out. I had a gun pulled out on me. Like, knives, there was, bats, and we don't have, the whole laundry list of stuff that cops have, right? We don't have backup that's coming. You don't have a gun. You don't have, we had handcuffs and that's it. Yeah. And this was back in the day when we were still hands on. So you're like going up with some guy and like who doesn't care, man. Yeah. Triple offender, right? Yeah. And either he's going to go to jail or he's going to beat you the fuck up. Yeah. Yeah. What he's going to pick. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, yeah, go ahead, handcuff me. No, dude. So you have to be at that point bigger, badder, and stronger than that person, right? Yeah. You have to be the one that they're actually scared of, to where like, all right, cool. I'm not going to pull it on that guy. So I remember like, we had to go through those things. And I remember like reverting back to like training that I had in the Marines and saying, hey, let's do X, Y, Z, right? Yeah. And that helped us kind of like tactics. It helped us rope things in so that things were actually successful for us in the job.
And safer.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we started to kind of bond even more at that point, because we're starting to see that.
Once I knew, like in that job, once I knew you had my back, like when things really mattered, that's when I knew that you were, a friend of mine. Because, James, we've mentioned him a few times. I've known James to always have my back my whole life. Mm-hmm. And once you know something about a person versus like you telling me it, once I fully knew, that's when like you and I kind of got closer. Like I can tell you, hey, you're my friend, I love you, you're great. But until you show me you love me, you're my friend, you're great, then I didn't know those things. Yeah. And when I had that guy, over my shoulder fucking hit me in the back of the head, and you came up and got him, and save my life essentially.
That's kind of the point, dude, is like you don't get to see that stuff in any other profession, right? Yeah. Unless you're working law enforcement, unless you're working kind of like what we did, which doesn't even exist anymore, or in the military and stuff like that. You don't get to see that kind of a thing, because let's be real, man. If you're working at Target, you're not getting mopped up like that. If you're working in a cubicle somewhere, there's no one like threatening you, or you have to rely on the person in the cubicle next to you to come save you. Like that doesn't exist. Yeah. And with what we had and what we were facing, 100% that happened, and it was kind of crazy, because if you think about it, man, we were doing this to protect the interest of a company that's not even around
that
anymore,
we don't even fucking care about,
or even care about. But the truth is, we weren't doing it for the company that we didn't care about. We were doing it for each other. Yeah. You know, like the first time we found out you had a daughter, we're like, okay, cool. We need to make sure that Tyler goes home to Haley.
Yeah.
Like that's what it became about. It wasn't about fucking, Rex who's over there stealing the t-shirt in Levi's. No, it was about Tyler going home safe to his daughter.
Yeah.
That's what it became.
And you to your family too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, like, it just became that to where we weren't no longer worried about anything else. And that's when you get to like, that's when it gets real, dude. That's when you really start to make a difference and say, okay, cool. This is really what, why we're here.
And that's what kind of you spawned what this is today. What the whole podcast is about, is we would sit in the office after these incidents and we would have real conversations about, life, about whatever. But we didn't have those conversations until we knew those things about each other. Until I knew you had my back, until I knew that you were this type of person. And then we would, Russ and I's first conversation where we really became friends was me and him yelling at him, fuck you, I don't like you, you're wrong for this and all that. And we were at each other's throats, And then from that conversation, we were able to understand a little bit of who we are, right?
Yeah.
And like where you're coming from, where I'm coming from, where we stand on certain things. And from that, we've kind of like slowly developed a relationship of where we are at today. And I feel like those real moments, if those didn't happen, like the job that we had, if those didn't happen, you and I probably maybe never would have crossed paths.
No.
As far as like this kind of conversation.
Definitely not.
Like me and James have experienced a life together, separate, that we were together in life, but you and I were almost like collided, and then like we had to challenge each other in order to then break down the barriers of each other, to where we can kind of understand each other,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Like most people in a situation like that, when they're faced with confrontation, it's fight or flight, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in a work environment when if you're having for all sakes, a fight with your coworker like that, most people are like, deuces, I'm out. Like, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm gone. Like, I don't want this guy to yell at me or talk to me. But we stood there and exchanged
I feel like
the
it's
word.
almost like our pride. I'm standing on my ground, you're standing on your ground, and then once I found someone that was matching me in that, I was almost kind of intrigued.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And then you get past it and you're like, then it's like the aha moment. You're like, okay, I get it.
Here's the substance of what he's talking about versus just like some fucking boss being a dick. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I think like that's where you really broke it down where it makes sense. Break it down. What the fuck, can't even talk.
Break it down, buddy.
Break it down, baby. Yeah, right. No, but yeah, that's where it really gets kind of broken down and you really see like, the core of what it was.
Yeah.
And like I said, you just, even now, dude, in a world where everything is so fucking fake, you don't get that anymore, dude.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore. Like, good luck, man. If people out there find friendships like that in that kind of the same environment, dude, that's a perfect storm brewing. That's a rare oddity. It's rarefied air, kids, because you ain't gonna see it. Like, just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everyone's offended by everything.
Everything.
Someone's probably I'm gonna get shadow banned on the first episode, dude, because someone's not gonna like what I said. Oh, he said Sears, I'm offended. Like, I'm a Target guy. Like, okay.
There's always something, man. Everyone's got a vagina these days, I swear to God. So.
Hey, you just got banned.
Hey!
Oh my God. Yeah, it's crazy though, dude. But so yeah, and so kind of even getting back to that, right? When we kind of broke it down past work for me and like getting through that job, I think really when I kind of realized like what's my purpose in life, it was recent, dude. 100%. Because I kept asking myself that almost every year, like, what's your purpose in life? Like, what are you here for, right? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I know you ask yourself that too. Like, what's the bigger goal, right? Like, what do we want out of life? And I think when we finally just getting this whole ball rolling, just getting this podcast going, everything set the way we kind of talked about, because we were talking about this
in 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
When we were having those conversations, like, man, we should record these things, and we were talking like reality shows and that kind of stuff.
Me and another coworker, we used to joke that, this is a Real Talk Russell moment, because Russ used to come in and have like, he'd break down conversations and like have deep conversations with us. So we always called him RTR, Real Talk Russ. So hence.
That's it.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
No, you're right. And that's where it kind of, it started, right?
Yeah.
It began there. And then when we finally got this going, I realized like, I lost my mom a couple years ago, and it really kind of started, you did too.
Yeah.
And it really started to like push me to ask myself, like, what is the next level? Like, what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
And when I say we, I mean like our family, like, what am I here for? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it, like I said, when we finally got this whole ball rolling, I think I was finally just recently able to kind of look at myself and say, you know what, you're where you belong.
Yeah.
And that was a good feeling. That was a really good feeling to have.
Yeah. Sometimes
'cause
I
I
need
felt
that reminder daily. You know, sometimes that's what we have family for. That's why we have you and I. That's why we have James. You know, I know we mentioned James a lot. He's going to be on the podcast eventually. He's our stage manager and all that, you know, kind of things. So
That's him if you can hear him laughing in the background.
But
we have a whole crew back there, so if you hear like random noises, that's what's going on.
That's them.
That's them.
That's them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we do those things. You know, there's days where, you know, I'm beaten down and I don't know what I'm doing it for. You know, and my girlfriend just reminds me of why I'm here. You know, my daughter reminds me of why I'm here. You know, you remind me, James reminds me. You know, this is the goal that we're searching for. You know, and it goes back to what I talked about earlier. Is I can't do this shit alone. I really can't. Like, if you guys left me on an island alone and said, "Figure out your life," I'm done, dude. Like, I'm done because I am a self-sabotager. Like, I know that about myself. You know, and I have to have other reasons to, you know, be happy. You know, not saying that I'm not happy with myself. I'm a very happy guy. Don't get me wrong. You know, but
I think you're like sometimes happiest when you're left alone, but
I am
in a different way.
But if I was left alone forever, then
yeah.
it would be, you know, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being by yourself and being alone. You know, I'm not alone. I have people that care about me and love me very much, and I love them very much. You know, and they're the reason why I get out of bed every day. You know, and
Tom Hardy said that. He said, there's a difference between being lonely and alone.
Yeah, 100%.
I like being alone. I was like,
I like being alone.
wise words.
Yeah. Wise words never been spoken.
That's right.
But there's a difference between being able to be by yourself and being okay with your own thoughts, because there was a long time in my life that I was not okay with that. That I needed to surround other people so that just their noise can kind of keep me, you know, out of my head. Now that's not the thing. Obviously, you know, I'm much evolved from that point when I was, you know, on drugs and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Now, being alone to kind of reconcile my own thoughts from the day, that's important to me. Every night I go to bed, I take a moment to myself, whether it's me going outside to smoke or whatever, just 5-10 minutes, just so I can kind of see how the day went, reflect on how it went, and how I could be better.
It's beautiful. For me, it's like on the shitter or in the shower.
Well,
that's
I just said 5-10 minutes. I didn't say I was taking what I was doing.
You're jerking him on hey, it's 5 minutes, baby. That's all that matters.
You last 5 minutes?
Hey.
But, you know, and I always remember, you know, in those moments, like, again, what I fight for, why I'm going to get up in the next morning, you know, like I want to take my family and do all kinds of things. I want to take my brothers to go do a bunch of things, you know, so, you know.
No, and I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head. That's why we're here, you know, and hopefully people that listen to this and you know, they find joy in it, if they do, hopefully, and they're able to kind of use that to bounce back, right? Because there were times, man, where you and I, all we had was each other, dude.
Yeah.
You know, when we couldn't turn to other people, we had each other, and it was in that moment, right? It's like, sure, you could have come home and talked to James, or, you know, talked to, you know, Jason, or whatever the case may have been, but in that moment, you only had my ugly mug, dude, and I only had you. So that's what matters, and that's hopefully, you know, these conversations we have, it's kind of coming full circle. That's what this podcast is about, right?
Yeah.
Even though we're going to get into like all kinds of topics and all kinds of stuff, at the end of the day, it's just real talk.
It's the same concept.
Yeah.
No matter what we're talking about, it's just a conversation, you know?
That's it. And for anyone who listens, they can relate to that, and they can just say, hey, cool, like I understand what that's about. That's it. That's why we're here. Yeah. And, you know, we talk about like what to expect on the show. So now that you guys have like a better understanding of who we are, expect to hear real conversations, you know, between, you know, me and Tyler. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to get pissed, you're going to, you know,
you're going to pick sides, you're going to do, you know.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked at the shit you hear. But that's really what we're here for, man. It's shocking, you know, and it's at the same time, it's real, man, because you can't find that anymore. It's like, it's not even like when we were growing up, there was like the era of the Kardashians, and that shit's all gone now. Like that's all gone. Like Jersey Shore, like that's all gone now. Now it's social media, I think, and it's like this really filtered, like how many times people have to edit their videos before they post them up on Instagram and stuff. Like, you know, I love like YouTube channels where like some, you know, I was watching one today, some Star Wars chick, she was recording herself and we were legitimately laughing because she was like left her bloopers in there and like her like, oh shit kind of moments, and those are the best ones, you know. So yeah, all that kind of stuff, like I said, just being real about it, like that's the cool part about it, and that's what you're going to expect, you know, and that's the whole point. I think that's why we're surrounded by, you know, good people, because you are who you surround yourself with, and I think we're in a good spot, man.
Yeah.
The guests that we have on too, it's not always just gonna be me and Tyler talking. We're gonna have guests on. You guys are gonna know some of them. Some of them you're not gonna know. You're gonna be introduced to them for the first time, but they're gonna give you they're gonna shed some insight on their lives, on their professions, the industries that they work in.
Yep.
Really, their perspectives on people that you thought you knew or maybe you didn't know.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get a new insight on them. So that's gonna be the coolest part. They're pretty much going to be talking about, themselves beyond the person you know or you didn't know.
Yeah.
So that's going to be pretty neat. So if you guys were interested on that very first episode, hopefully it wasn't too dry, too boring. We didn't bore you guys out or whatever, then follow along. We're gonna post these videos up. I can't say what the frequency will be because it just depends, on our schedules and how we're gonna have them. But for sure, you could expect at least 2 episodes a month. I can say for sure that are gonna come. So maybe every 2 weeks we'll have an episode out. Maybe more frequent if we're getting good feedback and people want to hear more of what we have to say and the guests we have on. We'll do more of them. But that's pretty much it. You guys can follow us on Instagram, Spotify, X, YouTube. We're on that. You can go to realtalkruss.com. We have our website up.
Yep.
Just follow us on there. his social media is plugged in there. My social media is plugged in there. We have our link tree up in there as well. You can find us on Instagram. It's Russell_Martini on Instagram. And then I have the link tree up for that. You can follow Real Talk Russ also on Instagram. So you can pull up the link tree there. Find Tyler, find me. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts, we'll have them on there. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's going to conclude our first episode of Real Talk Russ. Hope you guys liked it. Stay tuned, motherfuckers.